Greetings from Tokyo Station. I'm now walking on water. There is a heat stroke advisory for many prefectures in Japan. It's not just the Megaquake, which is one of the dangers of being in Japan. In the summer, we also have heat stroke. We also have typhoons, one that is rolling through Tohoku right now. Number 7 is projected to come next week near the Tokyo area. So there's a lot of stuff going on weather-wise as well. But it's this Megaquake thing that the warning that I've been getting so much feedback and so many comments. A lot of it is wrong. Some of it is corrections. There's a growing number of misinformation out there as well. And I don't want to be somebody who propagates this kind of stuff, so I think it's really important to take a look at this, at least today, and we'll look at some better stuff for tomorrow. But the Megaquake advisory has been continued. So this is when they announced the weatherquake. This was about, what, 5 days ago now? And NHK has reported that they're going to, it remains unchanged right now. And you can see in the article from NHK, which is in the government broadcasting here, which is the most authoritative source that you could get, except for JMA, which is the Japan Meteorological Agency, which is where you should be getting your information anyways. The Megaquake advisory remains in place, no changes in seismic activity observed, and this is today. So yeah, we're all kind of living look, you might be thinking pins and needles. We've all prepared for this. We've charged the batteries in our earthquake kits, our Go kits. We've made sure we have extra water. We've made sure that, should we need to be at home because of the Megaquake and the supply chain has been cut, residents of Japan are pretty much ready for something, which is a good idea anyways. This is just a reminder of that. And look, this Megaquake warning was issued. It's just triggered automatically when you have a slow slip, which is what happened with the Nankai Trough and the Miyazaki earthquake, and you have also a magnitude 7 or greater earthquake. It's an automatic advisory. The advisory is not a prediction, and I'm reading a lot of comments from people saying that this is a prediction. It's not a prediction that this is going to happen this week. The prediction, the advisory is that there's a higher risk of it occurring, I guess, within 7 to 10 days after it has happened in Miyazaki, based on this, and based on the risk assessments on the seismic data that they have accumulated, and they have seismic sensors all over the country. There have been something like 26 quakes that have happened since then, micro ones, mini ones, like less than magnitude 5, up to from 1 to 5. I'll show you the article, it's on NHK. But these little quakes that are happening are a good thing, relieving the stress. I hope this doesn't happen, but it's an advisory. It's not a prediction, and you cannot predict earthquakes. So anybody who says that this is a prediction, that is misinformation on the internet. And there's misinformation that on August 14th something's gonna happen. More misinformation. Again, relax everybody. I don't want you to cancel your trip. There was a TikTok shared with me from viewers on our Discord server, and this is a Welsh and a Swedish couple, and they have not canceled their trip, but they've altered their trip to Japan. So they canceled their trip to Osaka and to places that might be impacted by it. And I received actually quite a bit of email, in particular from Instagram and Discord and Patreon supporters, telling me that asking me what they should do. And I'm going to tell you what my answer is, but there's nothing wrong with altering your plans to stay out of this. There's a reason why they gave the advisory. If that creeps you out a little bit, by all means, go up to Hokkaido. Go where it's a lot cooler than it is here. You don't have to cool down the streets with water there. Go down to other parts of Western Japan. Go to Yonago. Go to, Tohoku, where there's a typhoon. You just go somewhere else. There's lots of places in Japan that you can go that are not underneath the Megaquake. So I don't blame them at all, and I don't blame people for canceling their trip at all. However, with that said, I want you all to understand that these big earthquakes are rare occurrences, okay? They don't happen very often. There's more of a chance that there's no Megaquake happening. The advisory is more for people like me, people who live here that have Go kits, that need to recharge stuff and be ready. Tokyo is not in the let's pull this up here. Tokyo is not in the Nankai Trough Advisory, but there is an advisory that has gone on, a warning to people in the Kanto region of a megaquake in the next 30 years, now 20 years, they say. So I think it was elevated from 70% to 80% chance of happening. So we have this for the Tokyo area. So we've got this Nankai Trough Advisory, but then we also have our spider senses in Tokyo, and we've also loaded up. My wife went out and got a 5-kilogram bag of rice, which is what we usually do. We just wanted to make sure that we had that just in case of reserves. We also got water jugs that we can get in case there's you can never not stock up on this kind of stuff in preparation of it, just to make sure that you have the basics, like a radio, make sure the batteries are charged, do all of that stuff. Her spider senses are tingling and said, look, it makes, despite the fact that Tokyo's not in the advisory, it makes a lot of sense for residents, that's me, to be prepared. Tourists, that's you, most of you, some of you live here, that's not for you, all right? So when I talk about that, that's not for you. The green area are places that could be impacted, areas that are taking measures for it. That doesn't mean that they're going to have a mega quake. Osaka is in that area. All right, Osaka's in that area. So I want everybody to relax, take a step back. Don't cancel your trips to Japan just because you're worried about this. The chance of this happening is very small. And Japan, if you look around me in front of Tokyo Station, all these buildings, they're the best in the world. This was just renovated. This 1912 facade of Tokyo Station has been renovated, and they say earthquake proofed. The city is well prepared for a mega quake. No city is ever perfectly prepared, but if there's any place in the world that can handle it, it is here. And I've been through it, so I mean, I'm not worried at all. The entire other side of Tokyo, you can see over the buildings there. These are all brand new buildings. Most of the hotels, brand new. A lot of the places had to upgrade their standards following the 3/11 earthquake. Now this advisory, I said, was triggered, and the response is, maybe some of you are calling it sensationalized. I'm gonna pull up some of the things here. A bit sensationalized was one of the comments here. Let me pull up some more comments. I mean, I take this, you published wrong information. Japanese government has warned Nankai Trough earthquake. Because I mentioned Tokyo, you're right about that, but in Tokyo, we're still gonna prepare our go kits. Sensational or clickbait headlines are fear-mongering. The chance of an mega earthquake 8 or 9 is only increased by 0.5%. I don't know where your data is on that, but when we get an advisory, we're going to listen to it. The government-sponsored psychosis spreading all over Japan. Some people still believe news. That's true. News is somewhat skeptical nowadays. Darn, I'll be going in September. Don't worry about it here. I get a lot of comments like this. If you're coming to Japan, I would postpone it if you were there. Avoid the trains and take a plane instead. Avoid being on or under bridges. Avoid climbing on Fuji or any mountain. Avoid walking below older high-rise buildings with tourists that can. These are all really good things, but I think, you know, Mount Fuji, I think, is in the warning area, right? So I probably wouldn't climb Mount Fuji anyways, and there's only a certain amount of people that can do it. So I don't know. It's not a really good climb, folks. But if you got your heart set on it, go ahead and do it. But there is an elevated risk to a mega earthquake in Tokyo as well. I just want to, you have to know that, because we all know that this is possibly going to happen. I live in Chuo Ward, down near the river, near Tokyo Bay. My wife doesn't want to live there anymore because she's worried that there are fears this is not really good land to be on should a mega quake happen. It's right next to Tokyo Bay, and I understand her fears. I said, honey, we don't own the property, we're renting, so we're probably going to move anyways soon. Soon can't be soon enough. So everybody has their own way to approach this. I want everybody to stop, drop, and sit down for a second and think about their trip to Japan and not cancel it, because the reality is that Tokyo, should a major earthquake happen here, it can happen next week, next year, next month, in 5 years, in 10 years. We just don't know, and you really need to understand that. We live here in Japan. I've been here for 26 years. I've seen a lot. I've been through some pretty strong earthquakes. I'm still here, I'm fine. It's just part of traveling to Japan. And you know this when you booked your ticket to come to Japan. There's always a risk of an earthquake. You're always going to have tremors. It's the same as if you go to California. Just yesterday, they had a magnitude 4 earthquake right in Los Angeles. UFO Bob let me know this. I saw this on the news as well. So even California, if you're in California, you know this is just part of living in Japan. It's just it's all the uncertainty that creates the questions. You're absolutely right. And I think that you should ask questions, and I think that you should get as much information and source this from the places where you should get the sources from, which is places like this. Now, there's a Twitter from Japan, JNTO, which is Japan National Tourism Organization. It's safe travel. It's also a website. They have a 24-hour hotline. You might want to jot down this number if you're in Japan, 050-3816-2787, and give them a call. This is a 24-hour support. If you have questions and you're worried, you can just call them. They'll talk to you about this as well. And if you're sick, you have a fever, you're not sure what to do, call them. This is what the hotline is for. It's government funded. These are people who speak English and Chinese and Korean and maybe some other languages, but those are the 3 that they've written there. From overseas, if you're calling, you can use the other number listed here with the Japan guide. This is the official source to call for information, all right? There's also a heat stroke here that has been issued for Fukushima, Ibaraki, Tochigi, Gunma, Saitama, Chiba, Tokyo, Izu, Kanagawa, Ishikawa, Yamanashi, Nagano, Shizuoka, Aichi, Mie, Shiga, Kyoto, Osaka, Hyogo, Nara, Wakayama, Tottori, Okayama, Hiroshima, and Yamaguchi. Basically Honshu Island on the Pacific side. So it's freaking hot, and I'm right now drowning in it too, so I'm not going to be outside because of this warning. But again, you should be thinking about other things if you come to Tokyo in the summertime. This is one of them. So please keep drinking water. Just a reminder for that here. And look, you know, I really do appreciate that NHK is on top of this as well. Watching NHK World, that's the authoritative source. It's still media. You can trust them or not trust them. I don't know. I'm watching the way that the media has been in the last 3 weeks, and I find the bias pretty incredible, politically speaking. It's pretty incredible. But put politics aside, when it comes to national emergencies, they're still kind of pretty biased. They kind of make this a little bit more sensational, so you're absolutely right. But this is the Japan-based news, this is the Japan-based media, and I hope, I'm fairly certain that they're giving the most accurate information and source it, because their reputation is more important than the money, and they're not getting paid by sponsors or and viewers don't actually matter. I ask NHK World, how many viewers are actually watching the shows that we're producing? They don't even know. They have monitors out there watching it, but they don't actually know the numbers, so they're not doing it to try to be sensational. That's something to keep in mind with NHK, and a reason why maybe you should have that app, the NHK World app on your phone, to watch the news, and you can get that information. They also have it on the YouTube channel. Man, the sweat's coming down real hard on here, but I do appreciate the updates from NHK, and somebody who has worked with them. I do work with them. There was an earthquake, an aftershock in Miyazaki recently. I think it was a magnitude 4. It wasn't very strong. I think it was a Shindo 3. That's to be expected. These are good things, so the plate is moving. But the government has said, secure your furniture, check evacuation sites, have a plan to confirm family safety, and people with special needs should evacuate quickly. These guidelines have been given out to people, and I think that these are really good for people like me. The advisory is for people like me. It's not for tourists. And if you're a tourist and you're going into the impacted area with an advisory, the hotel should be taking care of you. The hotel should give you information. The hotel should be telling you where the evacuation sites are. Should something happen, don't panic. The hotel will guide you to an evacuation center should that be necessary. If you can't get water and whatnot, the hotel will provide for you, and the local governments will be there to give you shelter should that be needed. Usually it's an auditorium at a school or a building that is made quite strongly to withstand it, that has shelter, a roof from typhoons and weather that could be coming into the area. Michael Sassano, aloha, my brother. Always appreciate these types of updates and tips that help us remain prepared. Hydrate, fun, my brother. Thank you so much, Michael. The only vending machines here are underground, so I might go and check that out here. There is a comment here which I thought was interesting. As a geographer, and I love the comments, we get so many here. By training, studied at a university, I can say with certainty that the information you gave about the tectonic plates are sound. This is the second live stream with the map. The effects will certainly be felt by any area that are in the region of the plate boundaries of the plate moving in question, not just the non-Kai trough. The advisory for the Megaquake is there, but it can happen anywhere. It's just good to be prepared. The Sagami trough is still in between two oceanic plates, and you're absolutely correct that if a big enough, Mount Fuji could potentially erupt as a result too. There's a lot of pressure on Mount Fuji right now, and we've seen seismic data in Hakone that has worried us. You can Google that information. I'm still planning to go ahead with my Japan trip in spring next year. Absolutely fine to do that, and I'm very thankful for this very useful video on how tourists can prepare for such a scenario. Stay safe and keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Adventures with Analog, and look, tourists are canceling their plans here. I'm not going to say that that's a mistake or not, because should a megaquake happen, you made the right decision. My point is that it's very rare. It can happen anytime, anyways. There's just an elevated risk, and it's an advisory that is automatically sent out from Japan Meteorological Agency as a result of a slow slip plus a magnitude 7 earthquake. And the reason why the Japanese media is talking about this more is because it just happened 13 years ago on March 11th, 2011. This is still fresh in our minds. Usually it takes 2 generations before we forget a lot of this stuff. You know, we forget about war, we forget about the stuff that happened in history. It takes about 2 generations for the big stuff like that. This is fresh in our minds. There's no way that the JMA and the government is going to make a mistake not warning people based on the fact that a slow slip occurred and a magnitude 7+ earthquake happened a week before the 9 magnitude earthquake happened up that really caused the tsunamis on March 11th. This happened. The last time was then. This is the first of its kind to have a megaquake advisory. So it's getting a lot more news than it should, but it should concern you, but it shouldn't scare you from Japan. It should concern you because it doesn't matter. You're going to have a chance of being in an earthquake regardless of the megaquake advisory. There's just an elevated chance. I think that you shouldn't cancel your trips. Now, let me put it this way. I wouldn't cancel my trip because I went to Cairo, and I traveled through Egypt a month after 9/11 when everybody told me not to go to the region. And I found everything was on sale, all the hotels were available, and I had a wonderful time. We had police escort going to the Red Sea. The area following that was raw. There were only, on a tour, the entire pyramid of Giza, the pyramids in Egypt, there were 3 tourists. The whole place, I'm not kidding. It was me, a Norwegian dude, and a guy from the Norwegian woman, and a guy from the UK on this tour, and we paid 10% of the original price. It was so cheap. We had a felucca going up the Nile River. Was it the smartest thing to do? No, because I was like 20-something, and I flew to a place that might be potentially dangerous, but I knew that Egypt is not a hot zone for this, and I was fine. And I had the most wonderful time in the world. The locals were friendly. We had police around us all the time because it's Egypt, and there was nobody there. So we were in the attention. So we got a lot of people trying to get us to buy stuff too. But my point is, though, that look, the news media is going to do what they have to do. The government has to do what they have to do, and you have to do what you have to do. And if you find that this is the good idea to continue with the trip, and I think it's not a wrong idea, you should do it. That's my point, right? And I loved Egypt. I had a good time there. I'm not sure what it's like now, but that was 25 years ago, 24 years ago, a long time ago. Southern California has been due for the big one since I was alive. I'm now 31. Exactly. You just don't know. You cannot predict this, and the Earth is older than all of us. We're just a blip on the map. So 1 week, according to the Earth, is like a nanosecond, all right? So there's no reason to panic. It's just that in light of what happened in the past, and if you're Japanese, you understand this. If you're not Japanese, you don't understand this, all right? Because, well, maybe you do. If you're from California or you lived through this, that's not the right way to say it. If you lived in Japan, you understand this, that we have to be on high alert because of what happened not that long ago, and the amount of the loss of life up there was just so catastrophic, including the damage. We don't forget that. In fact, we honor them by being prepared. I can take it to that step to that step as well. So, you know, if anybody who lived through 2001 with all the issues that they have, you better believe that they're going to take elevated risk assessment and let the people know this time, because they probably should have been more vigilant in warning people after the slow slip and the magnitude 7.1. They would have done something like this, but we learned from that, so that's why we have this advisory. And that's what I'm telling you guys about this. And this is so critical for you to understand before you decide to cancel your trip to Japan. It can happen anytime, anywhere, anywhere. Tottori Prefecture, where Yonago is, had an earthquake about, 10, 12 years ago that was pretty big in size. Niigata, where I'm going next week, no, in a few days, had a massive earthquake 22 years ago. It destroyed so much of the center part of it was a devastating earthquake that they're still recovering from today. Tohoku earthquake was 13 years ago, right? So these big earthquakes that have happened, they happen anywhere. We had an earthquake in Kumamoto about 10 years ago, right? We had an earthquake in Miyazaki just last week. So we're talking about the entire country. I was camping in Hokkaido when there was a massive earthquake near Chitose in Hokkaido, so they get them up there too. It's not something that's limited to just this area. So I think you're going to be getting an earthquake anytime, anywhere in Japan. My point is this: it is still the safest country in the world. You're not going to have violent crime happening. The chance of you getting ripped off is very small. It's so easy and safe and clean. The food is delicious. Right now the weather's not absolutely good, but the point is, look, don't cancel your trip because of an advisory or a warning. Just maybe stay away from Wakayama and Mie and I hate to say it, maybe Kochi Prefecture for another week. Let the advisory expire. Maybe they get enough of these microquakes that makes the geologists and the seismologists and the volcanists and the engineers that can understand the integrity of the buildings. It's those 3 or 4 professions that are the most in tune to making these kinds of calls. These are the people that you should be listening to. And I'm just kind of forwarding that information from JNTO, from the JMA, from the Prime Minister's office, from NHK World, from other sources that I think you should be getting this information. The United States Embassy as well has a pretty good site with recommendations on apps that you should get. You know, and again, like I saw the foreign media, and this is a channel, they didn't understand where the Nankai Trough is. So where you're getting your information from is very important. Get it from sources here in Japan. I'm so proud that they have so many sources here in English now, because when I moved here, like virtually none. It's such a different world compared to 25 years ago. A lot of stuff here. So yeah, the warning is going to continue. I'm not going to do any more videos on this until the warning is lifted or there's going to be something else. But I want you to read the comments, and I'm going to try to respond to them. But fear-mongering, this is not what this is. My point is, be prepared for an earthquake regardless of this warning. And if you haven't already, like, you know, the Shinkansen are delayed here. If you haven't already, I have a video. I played this a couple of times. It's gotten 2 million views on the main channel. The purpose, I made this video for one purpose, so that you could understand what a large earthquake is that I lived through. And if you can understand it, here's the video. It's gotten a spike in views lately, which is understandable. But I made this video with the Tokyo Fire Department to give you that information directly from them on what you should do. And one of the things that the fire department, the man who was running this simulation for the fire department, he's a fireman. He told me that most reaction for the Japanese is incorrect. You should get under that table. You should shield yourself, because you don't know if a weak earthquake occurs and there's a little bit of shaking. You don't know how much stronger it's going to get. It could go from a weak quake to a strong quake without you even noticing it. It's just impossible to predict. And I want to thank them, the Tokyo Fire Department, because for years they've been very proactive in doing what I'm doing right now, is making sure that you are prepared should a megaquake, any earthquake happen. It's scary. My mom was here for a Shindo 5. The TV was shaking violently, things in the house were rattling, and I was calm and relaxed, and that did a lot to help her calm down as well. Because if it's your first earthquake, you're going to be scared and you're going to panic, and there's just not a lot that you can do about it. It's a human response, right? What is living on the east of Japan like compared to the west, weather and culture? Well, the east side is a lot more convenient because of the Shinkansen. The west side, you're driving a lot more, and that's part of the culture. Japan actually has a very robust car culture, despite the fact that it has some of the best trains. The car culture is amazing. Well, you know all the car makers that are Japanese. So you're pretty much driving everywhere on the other side of Japan. Things are a little bit further away. It feels more like the United States in that sense. But the culture is pretty similar. Since television came out after World War II, Japan has been connected. Regional dialects have really gone away, so that division between the places has gone. But the regional foods still exist, and that's kind of a fun part of traveling. The sake, the shochu, the food and cuisine, the seasonality of it all as well is very interesting. In terms of hospitality, I can't tell. In terms of women, people ask me that all the time, and I can't really tell because somebody said that one prefecture was no good. I went there and I said, no, you're wrong. I just put it out there. It's like, look, there's you cannot say something like that, all right? So I can dispel that. But Michael, thank you so much for the question. The Megaquake advisories started for elderly, disabled people, and children to consider early evacuation. Doesn't sound inviting for a little vacation. The advisory is not meant for tourists, but it's a chance for tourists or visitors coming to Japan to be prepared and learn about what to do in case there's an earthquake, because the chance of being in an earthquake in Japan is always there. It's not like New York City where you're not going to have an earthquake. Instead, you should be prepared for a mugging maybe, or seeing a robbery. I don't know. It's just crime is really high right now in New York City. It's still a beautiful city to go to. My point is, though, that every place that you go to, nothing's going to be perfectly safe. And I think in Japan, you got to be ready for the earthquake, the megaquake. Maybe just stay away for the next week in those certain areas. I think that what I saw the TikTokers talk about with the way that they're changing their earthquake, their travel plans, I don't blame them at all. And I think that makes them feel comfortable, and that's fine. I think with the information that they've gotten, this is the decision that they came down to, and I think that's great. But I don't know if you need to cancel for Kyoto and Osaka. I don't think that there's much. I don't think a megaquake is going to, on the Nankai Trough, going to make a big impact on Kyoto and Osaka, other than shaking a lot of buildings and scaring a lot of people. The infrastructure there is pretty good. But then again, we could be wrong on this. It could be centered there. We just don't know, and that's the whole thing. And the geologist will tell me, a nanosecond is what like 10 years is. Like a second is like maybe 1,000 years to the Earth. A second to humans. So I studied geology as well at university. It was one of the classes I did better in, actually. May have been because I think I talked about this. Might have been because there was a girl in front of us that both me and I don't want to say name. So I went to school with a guy in the. He's actually one of the best weathermen too. He's a storm chaser for the Weather Channel named Mike Bettis. Awesome dude. Yeah, he started working at the Columbus TV stations right after Ohio State. But he was one of the RAs in the building I was in, and we took a geology class together. And we were always kind of, I don't know, flicking stuff at the girl in front of us. It was fun times. He was a great guy. But yeah, that was the kind of class where there's actually a storm chaser and a well-renowned meteorologist in the United States. I took a geology class with them. And we did pretty good. And I didn't copy off of him, nor did he copy off of me. It was just a fun class with a great professor. Anyways, people are scared of disasters. Let me tie this up for you. I made that episode on the main channel, has got 2 million views. I think a lot of my audience probably has already seen it. It's nothing new that an earthquake could happen at any time here in Japan. it's your responsibility to just be prepared as much as possible and don't cancel your trip, because we are as prepared as possible. The amount of deaths that happen as a result of earthquakes here is not that great. Even in the Noto earthquake in Kanazawa at the beginning of this year, Japan was able to minimize places, but that was an area of Japan where the buildings were a little bit older, and we saw some buildings collapse. Oh, hello. We saw some buildings. I'm just finishing this up here. We saw some buildings collapse, and I think that that's something that's not really going to happen in the city of Tokyo and the majority of the cities that you might be canceling your trips from. So I'd say consider the whole picture of it, and then make your decision informed like that. I think everything is going to be okay. How you doing? So you found me.
I'm so glad I finally found you on the stream.
Yeah, did you just come from the inside? Because I don't see much sweat on you at all.
Yeah, well, I was really sweaty the last 2 days. I was at a couple events, Comic Head.
Oh, right, how did it go?
Yeah, it was fun. Just, it's my first time in Tokyo in August, so it was really bad. Like, that's why I'm almost done with my trip. I went to like Chubu, like the Tateyama Alpine route, Kamikochi, and then I went to the festivals up in Akita, Amori.
Did you go to the Nebuta?
Yeah.
And the Kanto Festival?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, those are so cool.
The Gochugawara Festival too.
Oh, those are great.
The weather, it was really fun, and the weather was better up there. But yeah, Tokyo is, it's brutal in the summer.
It's like like you're slow baking in a way, in a convection oven. It's pretty bad. What do you think of this Megaquake thing? Are you nervous about it?
Yeah, I was watching a bit of it. I mean, I think it's just something that is most important to be.
I could you have a little better. Yeah.
Thanks. Just be prepared for, really. I mean, I'm from California, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm in Northern California, Bay Area, so there's earthquakes all the time there. It's in San Andreas Fault, so it's, it's just like flying a plane or flying in an airplane where you just have to be ready, right? Just be prepared.
Right.
But I'm not gonna massively, change my plans or expect, every day, for there to be some life-changing earthquake.
And that's the point of all of these discussions, because one, you should take it seriously, that you should be prepared for an earthquake if you're coming here as a tourist, because they happen anywhere, anytime. You've been in earthquakes as well, right? Of course.
Yeah, no huge ones, but definitely some medium strength ones where.
How do you prepare for it? What have you done to prepare for it? Like, it's one thing for me to say it, it's another thing for people to actually.
Once it happens, it's just one of these things where you just need to know, like, what to do, just not
panic.
Not panic, hide under something that's stable. But yeah, like I said, it's not something I think about every day.
Common sense stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Just keep your head with you. If you panic, you might hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. But if you can't stand up because it's shaking so much, get down. If you feel uncomfortable, if you're in a building, it might be a good idea to get underneath the table or in a bathtub or a place that is more secure. Things like this, common sense things. That's what duck, cover, and hold. Thanks, Max, for that. There's ways to remember that. I wanted to end the live stream, but thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I will do my very best to help you prepare for it. But that video that I made on the main channel is maybe the best place, made with the Tokyo Fire Department, and I think you'll get a lot of information where you feel a little bit more comfortable, and that's part of the job that you have to travel to Japan. Mata ne.